You're listening to Flip Empire, the show committed to helping real estate entrepreneurs who want to build their empire without sacrificing their life. Your success and freedom starts now with your host, Alex Pardo.
On today's podcast episodes, I want to share with you an epic failure I recently had. Although, is it a failure? And I also want to share with you some updates on the most recent 37,000 square foot storage facility that I purchased in Mississippi and the upcoming plans with that facility in addition to the other one I own in Mississippi. So with that being said, if you are new to the podcast, welcome. I hope that you continue to plug in and subscribe, hopefully. My name is Alex Pardo. I have been an active full-time real estate investor since 2005. I have wholesaled and transacted on north of 700 deals over the course of that time. And really for the first 15, 16 years of my career, wholesaling was my bread and butter. I've done fix and flips and all types of transactions. And in 2020, I decided that business no longer served me. And I ended up, after taking 3 to 6 months off and just kind of figuring out what direction I wanted to go in, I decided to transition into commercial real estate, specifically the storage asset class. So today own about 105,000 square feet of storage, over 700 units. And I only share with you that because I'm having more and more people wanting me to share how I made that transition and why I ultimately did it. So I'm going to touch on that on today's episode, but I think what's important, what I was really thinking about what I wanted to share with you on today's podcast, and I want to juxtapose, I want to compare a business that I got involved in around the same time that I got involved in storage. One has proven to be a success and is very, very aligned with my vision, my goals, the direction I'm going in. It feeds my lifestyle very well, and that's the storage business. And there's another one where I fell into the trap of the shiny object syndrome. I fell into the trap of thinking something was going to be quote unquote passive and just continue to have deposits coming in on a weekly, monthly basis. And finally, after 2 years and a lot of time and money, I decided to just ultimately pull the plug. And that got me to thinking, there's a big difference between deciding to let something go and giving up. When we decide to let something go, it's hopefully because it's no longer serving its intended purpose. Maybe you have new information. Maybe things have changed in your life. Maybe you have different goals, different ambitions. And that's a conscious decision. So don't ever get confused. Don't get fooled by deciding to let something go versus giving up. Giving up is more when we turn the decision over to someone else or we're influenced by something or someone else, despite the fact that it's truly something we still want, value, and desire. So I wanted to share that with you. So what I'm talking about, the failed business, is these automated e-commerce stores. So let me give you a little bit of background and give you some context here, because I just recently, about less than a week ago, I had somebody from a mastermind I was a part of reach out to me and say, hey, I'm about to spend, I think it's $45,000 on one of these automated e-com stores. What do you think? Years ago, my natural inclination would have been to just feed him the answer and say, don't do it, right? Like, here's why. But what I chose to do instead is ask him several questions. So to lay the groundwork here and to kind of share this failure that spoiler alert, it wasn't a failure. It's actually a huge win because of the amount of time I'm able to get back now. And more importantly, the mental equity, the bandwidth that it gives me, that I no longer have to worry about this. So back in 2019, I had been very interested in e-commerce stores. And however, I'm very focused on my real estate business, the podcast, Ascend, our mastermind community. And I'm somebody who I do my best to guard and put boundaries around my time. I'm not somebody who is looking to just make more and more and more and more money and do more and more and more things if it means sacrificing the things that are most important to me: my life, my family, my faith, creating memories with loved ones, having an impact, a positive impact on other people's lives. To me, happiness and fulfillment doesn't come from making more money. Yes, making more money is a valuable tool. And I'm the first to tell you, go get your money. I'm not telling you not to go get that money because it's out there. But I truly believe we live in an and world, and we can have both. We can make a lot of money. We can build wealth. We can have success in business and financially, and you can live a happy, fulfilling life where there's contribution, right? Like when I see somebody who's unhappy, oftentimes, yes, they might have some challenges financially or relationally or whatever, but there's a lack of contribution oftentimes. So back to the e-commerce stores, I wanted to have another income stream, right? Like we've all heard those statistics that very wealthy people, however you define that, don't just rely on one source of income. You put yourself in a very vulnerable position if you only rely on one source of income. Having said that, I felt like my business was mature enough in a place where it was consistently generating profits, and I wanted to take some of those profits and generate cash flow in an industry that's not real estate related. So I started looking into e-commerce stores, and I started, just checking out a lot of the different operators, is what they call them, right? These automated e-com stores, and I'm somebody who I tend to go a lot by my gut. And every time I would see one of these operators, it was a 20 or 30 something in a Lamborghini, just flashing the lifestyle. And that just doesn't really resonate with me. Nothing wrong with that. I like nice, fast cars like anybody else. It just didn't really jive with me. And so I felt there was a lack of, I couldn't really trust it. And so I couldn't put that amount of money into something like that. So around May, June 2020 or so, right during, kind of the height of the pandemic. This was about May, June of 21. A couple buddies of mine who I trust and we still have a really good relationship, launched these automated stores, and they had done it months before. And I had connected with some people that were a part of it. And I've heard some success stories, and then I've heard some of the challenges. And so I went into it with a partner, somebody who would just have a great relationship, really, really good friend. So we went in together, and I started with one e-commerce store. It was a pretty significant investment. Then I ended up with a second operator. I wanted to diversify. I wanted to get another store. And so I ended up going with a second operator. And I did so because I felt I could trust him. And, fast forward, we have gone through so many ups and downs with these e-commerce stores, and I've learned a lot in the process. So that's one of the things I want to share with you. This episode isn't so much to talk to you about automated e-commerce stores, but with every quote unquote failure, if you extract the lessons learned and you grow and learn from those opportunities or from those quote unquote failures, you're better off for it. Now, ideally, you're not having to lose money in the process. Nobody wants to lose money. Oftentimes in business, rule number one is don't lose money. Rule number two is see rule number one. And so we lost money. More importantly, we lost time, but I'm also not focused on the gap. I'm focused on the gain. What did I learn, right? So when I Monday morning quarterback the situation, I think back and I said, okay, well, why did I decide to get involved in an industry that I really don't know a whole lot about? And while I think I had the right intentions, and I didn't put enough weight on the fact that drop shipping, if you don't know, with Amazon and Walmart at the time, those are violations of the terms and services. And this entire business model was built on a violation of the terms and services. So right off the bat, I know better. But I was focusing on the success stories I heard and I went into it eyes wide open, but thinking optimistically and not thinking that would happen. And so we started off with a Walmart store and an Amazon store out of the gate. First 2 months, we were crushing. I think our Walmart store did over $50,000 in revenue, and we were climbing. And then we got suspended, the Walmart store. And then several months later, after trying to appeal it and a million emails and text messages back and forth, Walmart got shut down. So we launched an Amazon store, or we attempted to launch an Amazon store. And we had just the process of getting one of these stores up and running. There's a million things you have to do up front. So it's very labor intensive, or time intensive, I should say, up front. Set up bank account, open up an entity. You got to get this ID. There's a lot. You open up different emails, and it just all these hoops you have to jump through. And it was from the get-go, it just was already feeling a little bit off. And I said, okay, well, maybe this is just a 2-3 month season, and then we turn it over to these operators and they do their thing. And, we make our monthly passive commissions, and we could never get the Amazon store up and running. And so we decided, okay, well, let's spend a little bit more money and buy an aged store. An aged store just means a store that has been around for years and has a pretty good track record. So we spent an additional $5,000. We got an aged store and we launched it. And 3 days later, that aged store got terminated. And then between that point and fast forward, it probably took us close to a year to get a second store. And in that process, the operator decided to transition from drop shipping, which is a violation, and they were having issues all over the place, to FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon. And I made a commitment to my partner to kind of see this through. And I was kind of the one spearheading a lot of the communications. And, we had a particular split. And with my other operator, we were kind of having some of the same issues. I have nothing bad to say about the operators. I don't believe that this was a failure based on them. It was my decision. It was our decision. And so I take full ownership and responsibility, but we didn't get scammed. We didn't get screwed, nothing like that. Again, I have nothing bad to say about them. But I should have stayed in my lane. Or I should have done more research up front and go. So when you go into an opportunity, go into it eyes wide open, knowing what are the risks, what's your risk tolerance, what is it you're trying to accomplish, what is it you're trying to achieve, and don't look for a way to kill the deal or to kill the opportunity, and don't just look for ways as to why you should get involved in the opportunity. Hopefully that makes sense. I was looking for ways. I was focusing and I was waiting more. I was putting more value on reasons that we should do this and not giving enough credence and weight to the reasons we shouldn't do it. And I went into it thinking it was going to be very passive and hands off, and it was everything but. And so let me kind of fast forward to the decision that was made a couple of weeks ago. I had been working over the last several months. I made my partner whole. I said, hey, I'm going to take the loss on this thing. I made my partner whole. The time invested and all that is what it is. And decided with one operator, hey, we're shutting this down. And then with the other operator, he's taking 100% ownership and control of it. And so at the end of the day, I think I may have made, I don't know, $4,000 or so in 2 years. And I don't know how many hours spent on this, and just mental equity, what I call, right? Bandwidth, thinking about it. And it probably took me away from things that I could have been pouring my heart, energy, and soul into. So once I made the decision, had a conversation with my partner, he understood where I was coming from. He felt good about the transition and how that was going to happen. I instantly and immediately felt a big relief off my shoulders, because now I could pour more of myself and more of my creativity, more of my brain power into Ascend, into our mastermind, into the storage business, and other things that I'm involved in, this podcast, having an impact on people's lives, giving that time to my family. So I'm a better father, better husband, better leader. So I wanted to just share that with you, because ask yourself if you're being distracted by shiny objects. If you're going to get involved in an opportunity, make sure that you have the full picture, make sure it aligns with your goals and with your vision, and make sure that you're not just making a decision based on ROI, right? Dollars and cents, but what's the opportunity cost, right? If you're giving some mental energy and time to this, is it taking away from something else? And if you're going to invest with somebody and it's supposed to be passive, I find that most things that say they're passive aren't really passive, unless you're, there are definitely things that are passive. I'm not, but for example, buying rental properties, people always say that's passive. That's not passive. Owning and operating storage hasn't been passive. Now, it doesn't take me a whole lot of time because I have third-party management, but I still have to manage the third-party manager. I'm still involved in overseeing this portfolio that we've now decided to sell. And so that's a transition to that. Kind of juxtaposing the storage business, I got involved a little bit before the e-commerce business, but now I've been able to acquire 3 facilities, over 100,000 square feet of storage, over 700 units. I've decided that I'm packaging up the 2 Mississippi portfolio, which is about 80,000 square feet in Jackson, Mississippi, and that's going to be sold. It should be hitting the market within the next week or so. We're going to be listing that, I believe, for 5.2 million. And I'm into it for significantly less than that. So that's incredible. It's going to be even better once we sell, and I can then take that money and continue to pour it and invest it into things that fit my lane, things that are aligned with the direction that I'm going in, and some of the things that I want to accomplish. Reinvest into the business, reinvest into people, etc. So hopefully this episode connects with you in some way. I fell into the trap despite knowing better that about the shiny object syndrome. And there's so much. It's interesting. A year and a half, 2 years ago, you see so many people on Instagram or on social media with screenshots of their Amazon stores. And I was one initially because it's exciting. You get into something, you see it take off, and it's exciting. But the reality is it's not what I thought it was going to be. And the signs were there, but I chose not to put a lot of weight and value on them. And I looked for reasons to get involved instead of trying to kill the deal. And then if you can't kill the deal, then it makes sense. So just wanted to share that with you, coming from the heart here. Even though the business was a massive failure, at the same time, it was a massive success because I've learned a lot, and I can now pour just myself into the things that I know are sustainable, the things that are, again, aligned with the direction I'm going in. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. One of the ways, oftentimes on these podcast episodes, I don't really ask for anything, but in this particular case, I'd love to ask you to subscribe to the podcast if you're not already. If you are, or even if you're not, share this with somebody who you think it could benefit. I've always believed that we should be a funnel of information, good information, and good content. We should always have one hand up to somebody pulling us up and helping us, and you should always have one hand down to somebody pulling somebody up. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It could be simply sharing a book, sharing a podcast episode like this, making a connection, an introduction, reaching out to somebody, just letting them know you're thinking about them. So with that being said, I appreciate you listening to the Flip Empire Show, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you on the next one. If you want to learn more about our mastermind community, Ascend, go to ascendyoursuccess.com. And with that being said, have an incredible day. I'll catch you on the next one. Hope you enjoyed that episode. But before you go, I've had a lot of people recently reach out to me wanting to learn more about Ascend, wanting to understand how the mastermind component works, how the coaching relationship works. And so right now we're actually on a waiting list. But what I would encourage you to do is, if you think you're the right fit and you think you could benefit from being a part of our community, head over to ascendyoursuccess.com, watch the short video, and then just click the apply to join button below. And then we'll be in contact with you if and when a spot opens up. So really appreciate you listening to Flip Empire here, and I look forward to connecting with you on the next show. Take care.